So you're just getting off of the second loss ever of your mixed martial arts career. The first one, you got caught by Uriah with a guillotine, and then the second one, this Cody no love fight. And what are your thoughts on it now, having time to reflect and look back? And
well, my thoughts are, I pretty much laid it all out right away because I wanted to just do that, which was at the press conference, the post-fight press conference. I pretty much just wanted to, like, I literally laid every ounce of every thought I had at that moment out there for everybody to hear at a point where I'm very vulnerable. And I did that on purpose to show that we're not all, the same. Some people don't want to show their vulnerability. Some people want to just be seen as only perfect, only tough, only strong. And really the truth of what makes the strongest people in the world is their vulnerability early until they learn how to be tough. And, losing is part of that lesson, unfortunately, for everybody. And being unsuccessful is part of that lesson for people just as much as losing. So it's like you do what you can with it. And that's how I feel now, is like I do what I can with it. And the only way to make the best of it is to accept it right the second it happens. Understand that that's just the way it is. That's the way that this has been slated for this portion of my life. And just move forward, and as long as you embrace it, don't make excuses for it, and then you can actually look at what you did wrong and take it in. The second you make an excuse, the second you say, well, I was a little off here, a little off there because of this, this, and this, is the second you allow your mind to go into a path of, well, it wasn't in my control, which means you're not really like dealing with the problems at hand. I think you're kind of bypassing the problems at hand when you do that. And then you can't grow from the experience. So what's the point of a loss if you're not going to grow from it and get the most out of it? Now it's just useless if you don't accept it.
yeah, there's a real instinct that many fighters show, like almost immediately after a loss, to go right into what was wrong with the camp, what was wrong with an injury, what they could have done differently, personal problems. And that really can wreak havoc with your mind.
Correct. I agree. I think more than wreaking havoc with your mind, I think it just shows how long it's going to take for them to get over the loss. I mean, that's the thing. The second you just say it, lay it all out there, and everybody knows, including yourself, the next step is growth. It's no longer stagnant and sitting and feeling the loss and trying to accept it. I've already accepted it. I accepted it the second I shook his hand in that octagon and they raised his hand as the winner. Like, I mean, am I really going to sit here and make excuses? Because let's say on the judges' scorecard, I had some mindset that's like, oh, I shouldn't have lost the decision, or maybe this, maybe that. It's like, what's the point of that? Because in the end, it's already been chucked. It's already there.
It's written down. Yeah, it's over.
Regardless of what anybody says, that's not leaving that piece of paper. So what's the point of really saying all this stuff, letting people argue that, well, you could have won here, you could have won. Where is the argument anymore? Where's the logic in that? Where's the point in all that? And I'm just sick and tired of excuses. I've fought so many years, winning so many years, hearing so many excuses about why I beat people. And I wanted to set a parameter right off the bat that I'm not that person.
Now, you're getting really well known as an MMA analyst, and I think you do an amazing job on Fox. I think you're one of the best guys in the world at it. You're really, really good at it. But one of the things that people are getting a chance to see because of that is how your mind works and how much thought you put into not just fighting itself, but the whole process. The whole process of preparation and mindset while the competition is going on. And that's also being reflected right now in the way you express how you get over a loss. Like, where have you learned to think like this?
Well, my mom is a big reason for that, I would say, early on. She just always forced me to deal with the things I didn't want to deal with. And not just deal with them, but look at them in the eye and talk about it.
Like, what kind of stuff?
Anything. Like, you steal a packet of gum from the store and you walk out with it, and you're 7 years old and you get home and you're eating a piece of gum and your mom goes, I didn't buy that for you. Where'd you get that gum? And we drive back with the gum in my mouth, put it in the wrapper, show the person that at the front, and that's not enough because I embarrassed the cash register, so I got to apologize to them, and then I got to go to the owner of the store, the manager, and apologize to them, and then might have to go paint a wall for them to make up for the piece of gum that I mean, it goes all the way down to that. Like, my mom has been that way since I can remember, to where she would never, ever let me make an excuse for anything I ever did, ever. And I used to get so frustrated with her because she would also never really get mad. She would never really like raise her voice. She would never really show a whole lot of emotion. She would literally say, I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to give you that power. But that's one. And that meant I was getting one whooping when I got home when I did something wrong. And so now I got to sit and think about that for the next 5 hours until we get home. And then she takes me into a room and she sits me down with no anger. Everything's understood. And she says, do you know why we're here? And she explains to me why we're here and why I'm in trouble and why I'm getting smacked on the ass with this breadboard. And there was never any escaping anything, ever. So it's like, it put me in this weird mindset where I don't make excuses. And anybody who makes excuses, I call them out on it because it's old, it's annoying, it's flawed in my opinion. It's just weak.
That's a great lesson. That's a great way to be raised too. Your mom.
I'm not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I do this every time. It's just something that's like made me. That you asked how I got that in my mind, and it wired me a little different. My grandma's a pretty crazy on that too. So between my grandmother and my mom, who helped raise me because my dad wasn't around so much, those two molded me into this weird being.
You're coming off of the toughest loss of your career. You lose to Cody No Love in a very, very tough fight against a super talented guy.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that fight, and how do you feel right now?
I feel good. I just want to heal up my body a little bit. That year doing the 3 camps, coming back after the couch, it was a hard year. It was a good year. It was
because you weren't conditioned when you went full bore
when I first started,
into camp.
but that also affected my style. Like, if you look at the last 3 fights this year and my fights before the injuries, I threw a million more kicks.
Well, you looked outstanding against Uriah.
Yeah.
You looked like your body didn't look as good with TJ. You looked like
that
you
was
were
the
a
one
little
where I was
softer.
hurt.
Right.
That was the one where I was hurt.
You could tell. But you could tell physically by looking at you.
Oh, yeah. And by the Faber fight, I did strength training camp for that whole camp. That's the difference of having a strength training camp and not having a strength training camp.
You could tell by the way you looked.
Right, but my cardio was through the roof because I implemented sprints instead of strength training. Whereas for the Faber fight, I could do strength training because I had enough time and my sprints. So I could double up on the workload to make my body stronger, more fast, more efficient, and more than anything, tougher. To take damage better.
Your core, toughening up your core, everything.
Taking kicks, taking punches feels night and day different now. Even for the Cody fight, I felt great. I do look at that fight and I think maybe I could have waited, but I knew so I wouldn't overwork myself in that year with the training and stuff, because it's one thing to take 3 fights in a year, and it's another thing to take 3 title fights in a year. Anybody can say whatever they want. I fought 6 times this year. Yeah, but you didn't fight 3. You didn't go through 3 title fight camps and then fight these guys who are the best in the world. That's a different thing. It's so much more workload. And all 3 fights
go into 5 rounds as well.
And it's a lot of workload. But the camp is really where the damage is done, not the fight. The camps are just painful for 5 rounds, just the way it is. But after getting through that fight with Cody, I feel like I just want to face the winner of those 2. You know, I think that he had a good night. They had like I said, I fought that camp how many times, man? How legitimately, if you had to break down, I mean, if you went back and looked at tape, you could probably break down 30 rounds with me in that camp. That means they have all those reads on me through the years. And then Cody started out watching me in junior high school. And then the way I look at it is, he's the one guy who could implement it because he looked up to the guys that wanted to beat me as they are the shit. So it took down the ego from him and allowed him to learn from the best guys that I fought and really take in that information and use it. Whereas you give a guy like Faber or TJ information, and I guarantee you it's in one ear out the other. They already know everything.
You don't think TJ's learning a lot from Dwayne?
He is now, but I'm talking about then.
Okay.
In that camp. And I think that Cody was just like a sponge for these guys because he was young. And so he came up in that camp as a youngster, and nothing those guys could say to him would be wrong. And so that made him very effective with what he's doing today. And then he's built his style to beat the champion, which was me.
I think a big factor in Cody's ability is also he came to MMA from boxing with very good hands.
Yes.
His hands are outstanding.
Yeah, but we expected that.
Right, I'm sure you did, but I'm just saying that that's a big factor in his success in MMA, period.
Agreed.
Is that his boxing was already at a really high level before he entered into MMA.
Well, he had a lot of, I think even more than having boxing at a high level, it's just the rounds.
Yes.
It's the rounds. It's the experience in the fights more than even being good or not. Like, he was good, obviously, but he had the rounds.
Right.
So he wasn't coming in green. He was coming in as a 10-0 as an amateur, and then having 10 pro fights, and so that's 20-0 basically. We were, you know what I mean? Or 10-0 as a pro. He lost some fights as an amateur, but even then he goes through his losses as an amateur so they don't affect him on his record.
Right.
And so like he's learning those things, even though your brain is taking the damage, he's still learning things that are going to be added to his pro career.